Today, we are diving into a story that for many feels like a myth. But what if it's not? What if it's actually a forgotten chapter of history? We're not just talking about ancient giants here. This is about a world pushed to its absolute brink, and a single transgression that might just be the key to understanding why our planet once needed a total reset. So, let's just start with this one big question. What if all those stories you hear from cultures all over the world about demigods and towering heroes, what if they aren't just fantasy? What if they're a kind of scrambled memory of a time when a hybrid race almost wiped out humanity? A time when the very wall between the spiritual and the physical world was just shattered. That's the lens we're using to look at the world before the flood. Okay, to really get this, we have to go back, way back, to the beginning, to the world before the flood. It all kicks off with one single foundational event, a choice. And according to the text, this choice didn't just break some rule. It changed everything, maybe right down to our DNA. Right at the beginning of Genesis, you find these couple of verses. And honestly, a lot of people just skip right over them. But they are the catalyst. They're the spark that lights the whole fire. The sons of God see the daughters of men, and they decide to cross a line that was never, ever meant to be crossed. Now, for centuries, people have debated who exactly these sons of God were. One idea is that they were just guys from the righteous family line of Seth, Adam's son. But the interpretation we're digging into today suggests something way more radical, that this is talking about angelic beings. And that view is a game changer, because it reframes the whole story from a simple human mistake into a full-blown cosmic rebellion. And that's the point, right there. This wasn't just some spiritual disagreement. If these were angels, this was a physical invasion. They literally abandoned their own realm to interfere directly with humanity, completely shattering the natural order of things and creating something, well, something new and totally corrupt. So what happens when you have this forbidden union? You get a direct, world-altering result, an offspring that wasn't fully human and wasn't fully angelic. You get an age of giants. The Bible actually gives these beings a name, the Nephilim. The Hebrew word itself is often just translated as giants, but you have to understand they were so much more than just tall people. They were an entirely new kind of being on the earth. And get this description, mighty men of old, men of renown. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? These were the original champions, the superheroes, the rock stars that the ancient pre-flood world built its legends around. But while the world was in awe of their power, the story tells us God saw their very existence as a symptom of a deep, spreading darkness. See, the Nephilim weren't really the core problem. They were just a sign that the world was spinning out of control into total corruption. Their existence was like the ultimate proof that the image of God in humanity was being twisted into something it was never meant to be. Just stop and think about the weight of that verse. It's not just saying, oh, people did bad things. No. It's describing a state of complete and utter depravity, where every single plan, every desire, every thought was just geared toward violence and destruction. Imagine a world literally consumed by its own darkness. And right here, the whole perspective shifts. This has got to be one of the most staggering verses in all of Scripture. The chaos on earth didn't just make God angry, it caused deep personal grief. It literally grieved him at his heart. It was out of that profound sorrow that the decision for a global judgment had to be made. But here's the thing, the judgment wasn't only the flood that wiped the slate clean. It was actually a two-pronged attack. There was also a very specific, very immediate punishment for the angelic beings who started this whole mess in the first place. So let's just trace that path one more time. You start with the angelic rebellion, that leads directly to global corruption. This, in turn, causes this divine grief, which then forces decisive action, the flood for humanity and prison for the rebels. So, what happened to those angels? Well, the New Testament writings of Peter and Jude tell us they were grabbed and thrown into a special prison called Tartarus. And this isn't just some holding cell. It's described as a place where they're bound in chains of darkness, waiting for the final judgment. And this is a really important distinction. While other fallen angels, or demons, were still out there, these specific guys were dealt with immediately and severely. Their crime, abandoning their home to physically corrupt God's human creation, earned them a unique sentence: immediate incarceration. Now, this is where the story takes another fascinating turn, because the story of the giants doesn't actually end with the flood. Nope. Long after the waters went down, the shadow of the Nephilim seems to creep back into the world. Which brings us to this puzzle, right? Genesis 6 itself says there were giants on the earth in those days and also after that. Okay, wait. If the flood was a complete reset, how is that even possible? It's a question that has had people scratching their heads for thousands of years. And we see this powerful echo hundreds of years later. When Moses sends spies into the land of Canaan, they come back absolutely terrified. They talk about seeing the descendants of a guy named Anak, giants so massive that the Israelite spies said, "We felt like grasshoppers." And they specifically connect these guys, the Anakites, back to the original Nephilim. And this wasn't just some vague ancient report. Centuries after that, we get a real-life, tangible example. Goliath of Gath, a Philistine champion standing over 9 feet tall. He was a living, breathing echo of that ancient corruption, a physical giant standing as a direct challenge to the people of God. So what do you take away from all this? When you look at the whole story, it seems to be this. No matter how big the giant, no matter how strong the enemy, or how corrupt the world gets, the main theme is that God's sovereign plan just keeps moving forward. It doesn't break. It's unstoppable. From cleaning up the pre-flood world to giving his people the strength to face their own giants, the story is always about ultimate victory over chaos. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. If the Nephilim were physical corruption of humanity's original design, what are the modern giants that try to twist and corrupt it today?